y'all, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Holly and this is my booktube channel. I am drinking some iced coffee today because it is about, this is Judge if you have not met him yet. Anyway, I'm drinking iced coffee today because it is about 80 degrees here in Texas. So we're enjoying some warmer weather, and this is just that iced coffee that you get like at your grocery store. You know, Starbucks makes one, a couple other brands make one. I can't even remember which one I bought, but in any event, it is good. And if you don't already have some, grab some and let's jump into the video. Oh, and I almost forgot to share my super cool cup. It is basically all the spines of the Harry Potter books. I hope that's not super blurry for y'all, but is that not awesome? My sister bought that for me for Christmas, I want to say, and I love it. It's awesome. So today we're talking my April TBR, and like I always say, these are more like April hopefuls, April possibles, because TBRs can change in my world. Sometimes you're in the mood for something totally not even on your TBR, and go ahead and read it is what I like to say. So these are just the ones that I hope to get to, that I'm looking forward to getting to this month, and that's really my only criteria for TBR. First of all, one of the books that was supposed to be on my TBR is one that I actually binge read before I filmed this video. So I've actually already read it, and that is Lone Women by Victor Lavalle. This was the book of the month pick, I think for last month, for March. And I read it like at the tail end of March, and today is April 1st as I'm filming this, so it maybe should have been in my March wrap-ups, but I'd already filmed that, and it didn't really make it into my April TBR because I'm filming it now. So it's one of those weird in-between books, but I will give my more in-depth thoughts on this when I do like a reading wrap-ups or recent reads type of video. But yes, it was supposed to be in my April TBR. So if you've been on my channel a bit, I do have a Stephen King TBR jar, and if you're new, it's basically just a jar that I have where I've written all the Stephen King books that he's ever written on little pieces of paper. They're all in a jar, and each month I've been trying to pick out one and read that Stephen King book for the month. But this month, I am trying not to buy any books this month. I am really working hard to save a little money this month and read what I have and work on what is already on my shelves. So I decided to pick a Stephen King book that is already on my shelves, and that is Mr. Mercedes by Stephen King. I picked this up not too long ago, and I've been really wanting to get to it. And last month, if you haven't seen that video, my March wrap-ups, I kind of had a doozy of a Stephen King book, so I really don't want to chance it this month. I need to read something of his that I'm sure I will love, and I've already started reading this one. You can see my bookmark here. I'm about 50 pages in, and so far it is really good. This one is part of the Bill Hodges trilogy. So as you might expect, you're following the main character, Bill Hodges, and he is a retired police detective. And before he retired, this killer called the Mercedes Killer was running around doing his thing, murdering people, and he retired before he ever solved the case. So the book starts off and he's basically just retired and bored, and he really doesn't have a wife anymore. I think he's divorced, and he has kids, but they're grown and they live in a totally different city. So he's just bored, kind of feeling useless, and the book alludes to the fact that he is considering ending his life. So he's definitely not in a great headspace, and he's sitting there one night contemplating it when he gets a letter in the mail from the Mercedes Killer. And that's about as far as I've gotten, and that's only 50 pages in, so that's not a spoiler. But I imagine he's going to get sucked into trying to find the Mercedes Killer and figure out who it is. And I'm excited to get to this one because in March I read a nonfiction true crime book on the Zodiac Killer, and this is giving me Zodiac Killer vibes. You've got this like creepy but polite serial killer, and he's sending letters and taunting police, and so it's giving me all of those vibes, and I'm already really liking it, and I'm hoping I can get through the entire trilogy before Stephen King's new book, Holly, comes out later this year, because Holly is based on one of the characters in this trilogy. So I'm going to try to work my way through the trilogy before that book comes out. Next up, I actually have a stack here of 3 different books, and they are all with a readathon in mind. Rachel with Happy Go Lovely sleeves. If you haven't checked out her book sleeves, they're phenomenal. I love mine. I use them every single day. She is having a birthday in April. I believe it's like the first weekend in April, so it's this coming weekend. It's April 1st right now. It'll probably be April 3rd when you guys are seeing this video. So it'll be the weekend of April 7th through the 9th. She is hosting a readathon for her birthday, and the only criteria is that there be flowers on the cover of the book. That's it. It is super simple. You can read whatever you want. She's calling it a Flowerathon, so I guess she just loves flowers and it's her birthday and she can do what she wants. So I picked out 3 books because I'm going to try to participate in that readathon, and these are the ones I picked. First up, I picked Left for Dead. You guys may have seen this in a recent video I did on, I think it was a cozy mystery haul, I think is when I featured this book. And this challenge was a little hard for me, y'all, because I could not find books on my shelves that had flowers on the cover. I don't know why. I guess I just don't buy very many books with flowers on the cover, so I really had to try hard with this. But you can kind of see on the cover here, way there on the counter in this scene is a vase of flowers. So, it counts. I'm counting it. And it is obviously a cozy mystery, and the main character is she's like I want to say like a rabbit rescue person. It's hard to describe her job. She rescues rabbits that have been abused or mistreated or abandoned in some way, and Bun here is her little bunny companion, and she and the bunny can communicate through telepathy. So that's a really interesting twist, and as cozy mysteries go, they both stumble upon a dead body, and she and the bunny go about trying to solve who did it, and then there's this element of the killer starts coming after them too, and so that's a really scary part of it. And the whole thing takes place in April, I believe, which is perfect for this month. And there's a bunny, so with Easter coming up, that kind of fits that theme. The whole vibe is going to be perfect, not only for the month, but for the Flowerathon, the readathon. So there you have it. That is Left for Dead. This next book is one that I got as a Christmas gift. It's a nonfiction book called I'd Rather Be Reading by Anne Bogle. So this is a really tiny, quick read, but as you can see, there are flowers right there on the cover, so it does fit the readathon prompt. And it says that it's the delights and dilemmas of the reading life. So it's just kind of this author's like memoir and ode to readers and books, and I think it's just supposed to be her thoughts and feelings and all of that sort of thing surrounding reading. So I just thought for a readathon, it's always good to throw one in there that's super quick, super short. That way you can try to get more than one book in, and it's a short readathon. It's only the 7th through the 9th, so I won't have much time to read, so I have to keep my books somewhat short, and you can see this one is really tiny. So that's just one I've been wanting to get to because it was a Christmas gift, and yeah, I think it looks really good. So that is called I'd Rather Be Reading by Anne Bogle. And the third book that I'm looking at reading during Rachel's readathon is one that I have been trying to get to for years. Oh my gosh, and that is Practical Magic. Oh my gosh, I have been wanting to read this forever because I'm obsessed with the movie. I love the movie, and I think this counts, y'all, but you can probably see in the witch's boot there's like kind of flowers coming out of it. I don't know if they're dead or not, but they are flowers, so you know what? I'm gonna count it. That's what I'm gonna go with. Alice Hoffman she wrote this quite a while ago, and I think there's a whole series of books, and I've just never gotten around to reading it. And as much as I love the movie, you would think that I had, but I just haven't yet. So I figured, what better time than to try to fit it into a readathon? And if you're not familiar with the movie, essentially this centers around the Owens women. They have been blamed for everything that's ever gone wrong in their town for like over 200 years. And the reason this is, and this is not a spoiler, is because they are a family of witches. So people don't necessarily like them, they're suspicious of them, and it's been that way for over 200 years. Their family line has just never had the greatest luck. And there's also this curse upon the Owens women that whoever they fall in love with dies. So it's just this horrible curse, and you're following mainly Jillian and Sally. They are sisters. In this book, it talks about how they are living with their aunts who are also witches and all the things they're enduring as sisters. And I don't know if this book is going to track the movie exactly, because the back of the book says that this is all about the time when Jillian and Sally were living with their aunts and all of that sisterhood kind of elements, and basically their life there before they grew up and got their own families and children and all of that, which the movie alludes to. So this might be when they were younger, before they grew up and had kids. I don't really know. I'm not sure how it's going to track the movie, if at all, but I'm looking forward to it. It fits the readathon theme, and I love witch stories of any kind, so I think I'll really like this one. That is Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman. I think I will likely vlog the readathon, the weekend that I'm doing or participating in the readathon. I tend to get very nervous about doing reading vlogs because I feel like I'm not very good at them yet. But then I thought to myself, you know, Holly, when is that ever a good reason to not try your best? So I thought that's not a good reason. Just because you're not good at something doesn't mean you can't try. So I might be trying to do a reading vlog again. There's only one way to get better, and that's to practice. So that might be a good weekend to kind of vlog, because I think it's Easter weekend as well. So my family might have some fun stuff going on that I can vlog and share with y'all. And the last book that I hope to get to for the month of April is called The Maid by Nita Prose. This is a cozy mystery. I've heard that that is the genre that it fits the best into, and essentially you are following the main character, Molly. She is a maid in this like big fancy 5-star hotel, and she goes into one of the rooms one day to clean it and finds a dead body there. And as you might expect with a cozy mystery, the police get called, she's acting strange, and so they start suspecting her of the murder. And she's sitting there thinking, I'm just here to clean, I did not kill anybody, and in order to prove it, I have to go about solving this murder to clear my name. And the reason that I picked this book for the month of April specifically is because April is Autism Awareness Month, and from all the reviews that I have seen of this book, it has made its rounds on BookTube and Bookstagram, and even the back of the book alludes to the fact that Molly, the main character, has autism. For me, it is so cool to see autism representation in books in a way that is positive and just sheds a really good light on people who have autism. And I don't think I've ever discussed this on my channel. Very few people in my life know this about me, but I actually have diagnosed autism, specifically the Aspergers type autism. There is a lot of debate over the terminology that the autistic community prefers to be used, and everybody is a little bit different in their preferences, but sometimes I find it helpful to describe to people who are not familiar with autism as Asperger's is, I really hesitate to use this term, but high functioning. Some people really don't like that term, and I understand why, but that's sometimes the only way I can describe it to people. But I also prefer to think of it as highly camouflaged. So it's essentially that. Asperger's is one of the most difficult sometimes to detect. Like, for example, I bet none of you knew that I have autism / Asperger's. It's masked is what they call it. They call it masking. Essentially, it's highly camouflaged. So people with Asperger's are typically very, very highly intelligent individuals. I'm not saying that to pat myself on the back. It's just a typical feature of someone with Asperger's, and because of that high intelligence, they are able to mask some of the behaviors and it's very hard to explain in a nutshell, and I don't have enough time in this video to go into everything, but it's a different type of autism, essentially. The two, Asperger's and autism, used to be two separate diagnoses. However, in recent years, experts have considered Asperger's to just be a part of the autism spectrum. So that's kind of the easiest way to describe it. I personally was late diagnosed. I was diagnosed in my 30s, and I'm about to be 32, so you can imagine I have not had an official diagnosis for very long. I have known my whole life that something about me was very, very different. I have exhibited so many of the hallmark classic traits that I don't know how my parents didn't notice, or they just didn't care. They didn't care to slap a label on me growing up. But there was just so many things that I was struggling with that led me to seek out a doctor who specifically specialized in women adults with autism, because that is sometimes the most difficult. Those are the people that it's the most difficult to diagnose it in, are adult women. They are the best at masking. They're the best at camouflaging their autism or their Asperger's. And so it's very hard to diagnose and often gets misdiagnosed. So I knew if I was going to get an accurate diagnosis, I needed to seek out a psychiatrist who specialized in adult women with autism. And I was lucky enough to find one in my state. It was very expensive, so that's another issue with the autistic community. Access to getting a diagnosis can be very expensive, but I was fortunate enough to be able to do that and get a diagnosis, and in short, it answered every question I've ever had about my life. And I'm rambling on, and this is actually an autistic feature, oddly enough. It's called info dumping. If there's a special interest of ours, which oddly enough, what is more autistic than being hyper-focused about autism? I don't know. But anyway, I'm info dumping. I'm just throwing a ton of information on this topic that I find fascinating. So I'm going to kind of slow down because I know that I'm doing it. So I'm going to slow down, and I can answer some questions if y'all have any. I don't know if you even do, and I'm not an expert by any means. I just know my own experience having autism and Asperger's, being late diagnosed, being female with autism. I know what that's like. I know what my own experience is. I know what I'm learning. I know what my doctor has told me. That is the extent of my knowledge. I do not claim to be an expert. I only claim to be learning more about myself and others like me. And I'm also learning that no two autistic people look the same. So I can answer more questions if y'all have questions. I don't mind at all. I'm fairly open about it. Interestingly enough, up until this video goes out, there are about maybe 6 people in my life who know. Maybe 10, maybe. It's not something that I've gone public with because you're never really sure how it's going to be received. And I guess there's a point I got to where I decided I didn't care how it was received. It's who I am. It's part of me. I consider it one of my greatest gifts in life. I love the way my mind works. I love the intelligence that I've been blessed with. I love the way I see things. I love my ability to think in very linear ways and very 3D ways. And again, I'm info dumping and going on way too long, but I thought this would be a good video to share that with y'all. Whether you're interested or not, I felt like it was good for me to put it out there and learn how to start talking about it and to start explaining it. So I'm a little nervous, but I'm putting it out there, and I thought this video would be a good way to do that because the main character, Molly, is supposed to have autism. In fact, the back of the book says that she struggles with social skills. She misreads people's intentions. She has an obsessive love of cleaning. Not that all people with autism have an obsessive love of cleaning, but like I said, they tend to hyperfixate on special interests. Hers just happens to be cleaning. And it says that the police find her behavior unusual. So I love seeing autism representation, especially now that it is so very personal to me. And I thought April, being Autism Awareness Month, was the perfect month to not only read The Maid, which I've heard is a fantastic book, but to share with my booktube friends something about me that you may not have known, that may help explain me. I don't know. Maybe it's just a total surprise to you. That's that highly camouflaged aspect. But to avoid rambling any further, that is my April TBR. I'm looking forward to Autism Awareness Month and in growing my knowledge of the autistic community and just all of the neurodiverse people. I feel like I probably know more neurodiverse people than I realize because neurodiverse people tend to find each other. I bet many of them are you guys. I bet I have so many friends here on BookTube or subscribers or viewers that are neurodivergent in some way. I would not be surprised. So anyway, let me know what you guys are reading this month. Let me know what books you hope to get to. Have you read The Maid? Did you enjoy it? Was it a good murder mystery? And I guess I'll see y'all in my next video. Bye y'all.